It's Thursday night. You know what that means. It's time for Magic and Martinis. Please welcome your host, Scott Wells.
Hey, welcome everybody. Thank you very much again for coming into this, our 35th or 6th. We've been doing this for a long time and I've had too much. But anyhow, thank you guys very much for joining us again here. Week, I was going to say, didn't complete that sentence. Week. We've been doing this for over 8 months. It's been a lot of fun and a fun ride with all the guests we've had from week to week, and having you come back and join us also. It's been a lot of fun because, well, otherwise it'd just be us talking here among ourselves, which is not a bad thing necessarily, because I really enjoy getting a chance to chat with friends. I hope that you enjoy this also. And you can also join in by adding in your comments and things that I always try to suggest that you do just that. That if you just be sure to post your comments and questions so we can kind of see who's going to be here. And I know that right now we've got John Custer over there that, hello, from Michigan. So glad that he's one of the first people who always seems to join us. So thank you very much. I'm glad that you're here then, John. We'll have some others be joining us here then shortly. And we have, again, another extremely great lineup of friends over here for this evening. Let's see. I think a couple other people just jumped in over here. Hey, PJ, across town over there. It's sake night. I can pronounce that correctly. It's not like for heaven's sake. It's not for heaven's sake night to me. It's sake night. Good for you and Sean. Cheers to you. And also for Kentucky. Hey, Mike Woodward. Always good to see you, my friend. There's a big time collector over there that I appreciate you coming and joining us all from Kentucky. I'll take another drink. Getting thirsty just talking. Also from Michigan, my good buddy over there. Thanks, sweetie. I appreciate you being here, Harriet. That's great. And Jim Grove, another guy from Arkansas. I can't say enough nice things about this gentleman who had helped me whenever that I was taking Walter's dogs up to Michigan, and he was just so nice to offer his place to stay as I was driving up. Thanks, Jim. You were just the best. He's got a great column I recommend that you read called Outs that's in the Linking Ring. And if you've got the stories, by the way, that you want to share about some times that you've needed an out or you've used one, be sure and send that to him. He'd like to have that. Hey, Mike D. also from Oregon. Glad you're here. John Keever is from Tampa Bay down in Florida, and got Michael Barefoot over there. Hey, Michael, good to see you then as well. And that, PJ's talking back over to Harriet and up there in Austin. Hi, y'all. And Nick is saying it instead of like an Englishman, he's saying it like a Texan, like he's been here all of his life. Hello to you and Susan, or hi, y'all. And, or I guess I'd say if it's you and Susan, be hi, all y'all, which is plural for y'all. And Kevin Davis, thanks again. Glad that you all are here then as well. This is great. Listen, let's get a couple of people in over here because we got just a wonderful evening of conversation. And let's get started with the first person that is just kind of an abbreviated video. And in fact, I'm going to show you this now. You may not see this later. These videos always stay up on YouTube and on Facebook. This particular one, because of some of the copyrighted music that I may have to edit or take this off of the YouTube later, but you'll enjoy it for now, and then we will remove this perhaps then later.
Was that your card?
Yes!
Yes! But wait, it gets better. Check this out. If I were to take your card, the King of Hearts, and just give it a rub, that's all it needs is a little rub.
Oh! Why did you do that?
Do that? I got...
Wow, is that a cool video or what? And that was just a little abbreviated part of that. This fellow right here, we're going to be talking with, is the person who was the organizer and putting this all together a few years ago, Mike Siegel. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Scott. Cheers. Hello, everybody.
Cheers to you.
Thank you for tuning in.
What have you got here tonight? What are you drinking?
I'm drinking Del Winnie. Scotch.
Oh, I like Del Winnie.
So that's
a good single malt. Is that 12 year or how old is it?
15.
15 year.
That's it.
I'm sorry I can't be in Canada with you then right now. We've got a couple other people. Steve Mills over here from Wichita Falls. Thanks for coming in. And that my son, Sean, also he's a Scotch drinker as well. And so,
very nice.
He's actually more of he's not a space side. He's more peaty. He kind of likes it from the islet kind of a thing.
Sure.
And then we got Anthony. He wants to see the illusion, the vodka. I mean, exactly. Let's see. We got other people. Phil Mann, come in. Hello, just got home. Crown Royal. That's really good. I know that's one of Al the Only's favorites then also. And Harry Maurer. Hey, running late. Go get your cocktail, Harry, and come on back and join us. And so let's get started with the next person. Let's bring her on. And I know that you've been waiting to hear her. And here is a little bit about our next guest. That's a little promo from a few years back.
She has been called the beauty of magic and the foremost female magician of our time. No, it's not Doug Henning. Ladies and gentlemen, the award winner for Best Cabaret Magic.
That was great.
Wow, and there she is now. Wow, what a trailer what that was. And Connie, congratulations.
Cheers.
And welcome. What are you having there? Drink a little.
I'm being light. I'm just having a white wine spritzer because I want to behave.
Hey, you're already home. You don't have to drive very far from there to the kitchen. But cheers. So glad that you're with us over here then this evening.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right, let's bring on our third and final guest over here then for this evening. But before we do, we had a couple more people that came in that, yeah, when Harry said he was going to be running to go get a cocktail, then Tony Brooke was saying, hey, slow down, don't run. You might slip and spill some. That's right. And so, hey, looks like Tony says, hey, he's glad that you're here then too. So glad. All right, let's bring on our third and final guest over here. And I think that this will tell you a little bit about him if you don't know already.
That way just a little bit. And I want you to hold your hands up just like that, if you will. I'd like you to take this
Vanacek
one.
is a world-class mentalist, amazing audiences around the world with his feats of mental magic.
He is doing these tricks inches away from my face, and I have no idea how he's doing it. Vanacek, you, sir, are a bad.
Vanacek is the first magician to successfully perform the Buried Alive Escape, which broadcasts live on national syndicated television. He has been awarded the #1 college entertainer multiple times, as well as an award-winning corporate and trade show performer. Vanacek has received the Letterman Creative Award, Dunninger Award, Dan Blackwood Award, SAM Melbourne Christopher Award, the IMS Mentalist Award, and awarded the coveted Entertainers Award in the college market 2 years in a row, beating out magicians, bands, comedians, and all other types of entertainment. Vanacek has performed on over 225 television shows and over 300 radio programs. He is a prolific inventor of magic, and his creations have been performed by Chris Angel, been the opening effect for David Blaine, and the long-running finale to Penn and Teller's show. For all these reasons and more, Vanacek is recognized as one of the foremost minds in magic and is the world's greatest mind reader.
You three are going to stab me with your knives. If it's a real knife and it goes in, you leave it in. You don't pull it out. You let the paramedics take it out. You call the paramedics. Definitely is a dangerous knife. 1, 2, nice and hard. 3.
talk about it.
Wow. did you survive from that?
I think I did. Yeah, I've actually seen that video for a while because I got much newer promo, but it was good to see that. Brought back some memories actually. So yeah, did it freeze for you? Because it froze for me at the beginning. It might have just been me.
No.
Okay.
I think it might have just been on your end. Yeah, I think everybody else was seeing that all okay. And by the way, in case
I'm
you
not in
guys,
my regular virtual studio, so we're kind of winging it here in this room. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I have this is my Scotty. This is normally my whiskey night. I go play squash, and afterwards we drink the finest whiskeys in the world. It's a group of top guys in the U.S. from all kinds of walks of life, from doctors to lawyers. I mean, dentists, you name it. And we try all kinds of whiskey. But my favorite is this really light whiskey, and it's called Lismore. And I love it.
Lismore.
Lismore with an L, like Linda.
Liz,
Yes, that one. Cheers.
yeah, cheers. Glad that you were here. So glad you came in. In case you guys are worried that Harry finally got back, he got his scotch. He got his
drink.
That's right. And PJ was saying, hey, yeah, hello, Banchek, Houston proud. So glad. Because you were here for like 26 years or so. Is that about right?
26 years. Yeah, exactly. 26 years.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Now, Mike, I know that you and Connie are both up in Canada. And Mike, that you had the you had the Sorcerer Safari. And was that actually competing with Tannen's Magic Camp back then? Or what was the relationship that you had with those guys?
Well, okay. So the camp ran 20 years, and it basically started. So up here in Canada, I've had a career doing magic. I had a couple of TV shows and then tours, and then I was fortunate enough to be able to tour all over. But then I got married and had a child, and I needed to be at home. So I started the camp because I thought she was off school basically for the summer. So if I could arrange my touring schedule so that I'm around in the summer, it didn't matter about the other times. So I called. At that time, there were two camps running, Tannen's and West Coast Wizards, David Goodsell. And Tony Spina was doing Tannen's, and David was doing West Coast Wizards. And David could not have been nicer. He wished me luck. There wasn't really any advice he could give me, but he said, good luck. And as it turns out, that was the last summer. He had done West Coast Wizards, I think, for 10 years, and then he was wrapping it up. Tannen's, on the other hand, was not really behind their camp at this point. Tannen's I wanted to go to. I wanted two things when I was young coming up. I wanted to go study with Neil Foster and do the Chavez course in Michigan, and I wanted to go to Tannen's. And unfortunately, we just weren't in a position, my family, that I could ever do either of those. But it was always in my head. So I called up Tony and I said, I'm starting this camp. And he could not have been meaner.
Really? Wow. He didn't want you to do it because it was going to be a competition.
He was really unkind. Like, not just discouraging, but like blatantly unkind. Anyhow, I did it because I was an idiot. And our first summer, we had like 4 kids. One was mine, one was another staff. And one kid, the check bounced while we were at camp. So that was our first summer. But we were doing something right because the next summer we doubled. So that went to like, let's say 10, from 4 to 10. The next summer, we went to 20. The next summer to 40. The next summer to 80. The next summer to 150. So by our 5th year, we had 150 kids. We had a waiting list of guests and everybody. And the camp changed incredibly over the 20 years. My idea initially was not what the camp became. The camp was based on everybody's input. And we had so many people that were just so great.
It looked like you probably had a lot of people who were on staff then as well, some other magicians, because in watching that video, and again, I edited it down a little bit, but I noticed Wayne Houchin at the beginning of that. So I assume that you must have been teaching some mentalism too.
Yeah, well, Wayne, actually, at that point, Wayne was not doing mentalism. He was doing cards. But like Wayne was there. I don't know if you noticed, that was Eric LeClaire that got knocked into the lake. That was Lee Asher knocking him into the lake. And then when they came off the docks, that was Aaron Fisher. So we were pretty card heavy for a little while.
Yeah.
But the kids loved it. And I mean, honestly, between Lee and Aaron and all those guys, like you couldn't get any better. And that was the idea of the camp was I brought in the artists that I thought, hey, and that were available. That was the other thing, right? You give up a beat and come in, and everybody was volunteer. So I would be able to pay their travel, but they would get no compensation for being there. They wouldn't cost them anything. They'd stay at the camp and eat and enjoy and have a week. It was like a busman's holiday. For a lot of guys, they would just close their theater for the week and come, or get off the ship and come and bring the whole family.
Yeah. And, when was your last year? When did they actually wrap that up then?
We wrapped in 2018.
Oh.
2018 was our last summer, and 2017 we lost our host camp. We were at Camp White Pine for 15 of our 20 years. Camp White Pine is the camp they used in Meatballs.
I remember that, sure.
In the movie Meatballs. So it was a great camp. I had actually worked there. I was head of drama when I was 16. And again, camp was just one of those things in me. And so anyhow, we lost the camp. We found another camp that was really just as inviting. But the timing wasn't the same. We couldn't get that same week. So we ended up dropping in camper numbers. And then, of course, all this has gone down.
Yeah, everything's really changed a lot in this. That's certainly true. I know among other projects that people have been working on that, Connie, we were just showing that video of you doing magic and everything. Which casinos were you working in back then?
In Vegas, I started in the Folies Bergère, and I started substituting for Lance Burton because Lance Burton was launching his show, and he was he was going externally to raise money because he was going to open his own show at the Hacienda, and so I started substituting for him. And then when he actually did leave eventually, I had substituted for quite a bit of time and had improved. And so they offered me the full-time position. And I was there for several years. But I also worked in Jubilee at Bally's. And I worked in the celebrity room also at Bally's and did corporate events in every major casino there was. When the Mirage opened, it was revolutionary because in their corporate areas, they had little mini stages with lights. And so you didn't have pipe and drape. So it was pretty amazing. So, yeah. And I was in Vegas at the time where it was like the heyday. So I was exposed to some of the best magicians in the world. And they set a very high bar. So it was a really good time for magic. And it changed considerably, after, say, 5-10 years afterwards.
We were talking a little bit about posters beforehand, and that you had said that also you had worked with Norm Nielsen with his, I guess, as a curator for his poster collection or something?
No, it started with the Norm Nielsen Dove Vanish, which I purchased. And Norm also was leaving Las Vegas often to acquire posters, and also he would be performing in magic conventions, and also he needed assistance with his product line and just general administration and things like that, and his beautiful museum that he had. And so I helped him, and I helped him for several years on and off when I was available and when he needed help. And so it was a huge learning curve and a fabulous exposure, and I'm just so fortunate that I had that experience. And that's how I ended up meeting Lupe. And for the people that don't know, today we launched Lupe's first talk, Lupe Nielsen's first Magical Woman talk on the Magical Woman YouTube channel, and she is just stellar. And so please watch her talk, and please subscribe to our channel and hit the notifications bell so you can see more of Lupe's sequels and other magical guests that we have had.
I was just sharing the screen here to show a few of the posters.
Yeah. That's their home. And then they had a guest house that was just racks and racks. And Norm was never happier when he acquired a poster collection. He was just thrilled. So yeah, it was an honor to talk to Lupe and to be able to have her talk today.
Yeah, that was just amazing. This is in their kitchen area over there then too. So anyhow, yes, I know that you had then the show then with today with her, and if people need to go to the Facebook, I think they need to follow you. Hold on, let me see if I can find that. Where it's Magical Women.
Yeah, Magical Women page we have on Facebook, and then our YouTube channel is Magical Women with Connie Boyd, and it's a YouTube channel, and you can see fabulous female talent. We've had some of the best in the business and continue to have some of the best in the business. And one of the benefits of this horrible pandemic is that I have a captive audience. So I've actually been able to interview people that probably wouldn't be available under normal conditions. So it's been a wonderful benefit and a wonderful project for me to be proactive during this time where you're just kind of sitting. I would be in a straitjacket if I didn't have it.
So I take it you haven't been doing actually any virtual shows.
I have not. I have covered some people that are doing excellent virtual shows like Carissa Hendricks and Kyle and Misty, and there was Minaj did a fabulous thriller sort of dark virtual show. So I've been watching some of them. I wasn't really convinced, but I am convinced now because I've seen performers break that virtual wall and actually engage an audience, and it's quite fascinating what the creativity that many performers have had and how they have gone out of their comfort zone and that they have succeeded and exceeded. You know, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And you've done what, about a dozen different ladies on your Magical Women show?
Oh, we're at 20 recordings plus extras. Plus we've had wow men. So we've had Lance Burton, Kevin James, Rudy Colby, Ed Alonzo, Franz Ferrari, Hans Klock. They've all participated within our show, within our talks, and they also have, some of them have done their own full talks. For example, Franz Ferrari last week did an entire talk on Gay Blackstone and why she's an asset to his productions. And we have Ed Alonzo doing something similar when Gay's second sequel comes out. So we'll launch her sequel, and then, we'll launch with Ed Alonzo. And, people have just been really generous with their time. And I think it's just really important to document these women, because there was no source in the world documenting women in magic visually like this. There's a podcast called Shazam, which is a great podcast with Kayla Drescher. And they address all kinds of very interesting topics. But this is more of a docu-series, and we're hoping that it's going to be a source for male magicians and female magicians of all kinds, any magician to come to learn a little bit about the history and the struggles and challenges, and also wins with all these amazing, talented women.
What I also like about it is they're kind of short segments. I mean, my podcast is I try to keep it at about an hour, just like with this happy hour. But yours is like about 12 or 13 minutes or so. So it's a nice little kind of almost sound bites, and the way you edit that together, that is just beautiful. It's one of the things I learned producing shows. When I was in Vegas, you're very pampered and spoiled because you have access to fabulous technicians. And, I didn't edit my own music. I didn't edit my own video. I had technicians that did it and did it very well and for a reasonable price. But when I started working abroad, it was extremely expensive, and you had a language barrier. And for multiple reasons, I started editing my own music and editing my own video, and then that led to editing for LED screens, and so all of those things that slowly you start with one little bit, and the next thing you get better at it, and then you get pretty good at it. And so I wanted to be able to give back, and editing is something that I enjoy doing and that I've learned to do. So it's been fun, and it's really kept me engaged. And I've learned so much that I didn't know, 7 months ago, I didn't know what I know today. And, it's fabulous. I also, we launched, I don't know if you know, we launched Blast from the Past, which was a series we launched this month for 2021. And it's vintage videos. So we've had performances from Diana Zimmerman and Tina Leonard's original Mechanical Doll, and Juliana's FISM Award performance. And we're going to have, and this is a coup, we're going to have Celeste Evans coming up. Celeste Evans' daughter has given me some phenomenal footage. And so we're going to have actual excerpts of Celeste Evans. So it's pretty exciting. This is expanded in multiple directions. It has, and there's one more exciting thing I really want to talk about, and I'm going to bring on Banachek here for just a second. But can you tell me about something that is coming up soon with Vanish Magazine?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So Paul Romani, who is the publisher and editor of Vanish Magazine, is a big advocate of diversity in magic. And he started last August. He asked me if I would start writing magical women articles, which I did. And that led to a really wonderful relationship, and I really enjoy working with him. And it came to my attention that Sébastien Bazou, who is a French editor-publisher of Art Fake in France, we also have been communicating for multiple years. He did an article years ago on my magic shows when I was doing big magic productions. And so we were communicating, and apparently I inspired him, and he wrote this beautiful essay, and he documented it with gorgeous graphics and visuals. And we sent it to Paul Romani, who became very excited. And he is launching on Valentine's Day, February 14th, he's launching a special edition free Vanish Magazine, Female Magicians Through the Centuries. Wow. And it's a beautiful piece of work, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So please, everybody, keep your eye open for that, because to the best of my knowledge, there's never been a document like this, and it's really well done.
And you said you're trying to talk him into actually making a poster of the cover, even. It's so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the poster. The poster is a compilation. It's a mosaic compilation of different magicians of all different eras, female magicians. And those little tiny compilations actually are, if you step back, it's the face of illusionist Josephine Lee. Now, for people that don't know Josephine Lee, she's a huge overnight sensation from Britain's Got Talent, and she's probably one of the strongest, well, I would say she's most likely the strongest female illusionist performing today, or let's say amongst the top 5. She's very, very strong. So if you step back, you will see her headshot, but her headshot is composed of all of these micro photos of these magicians through time. So it's stunning.
Wow, that sounds really cool. You know, one other thing that I noticed that, Mike, you've got some beautiful posters set up over there behind you. I noticed looks like Carmi and that Leroy Talma and Bosco, and the other one looks like that is the generic image of the Magic Convention or something.
No, there's a George, the Carmi, and the Leroy Talma Bosco,
okay.
And those are the Houdini stamps.
I see the Houdini stamps over there.
Yeah.
And also,
my Magic Convention posters are downstairs.
And the one you got behind you, I've never seen. That looks like, I guess, is that Darren Brown in an original painting?
Mine?
Yeah.
No, that's David Bowie.
Oh, okay. The way he's got his finger up over there, I thought maybe that was Darren Brown.
No, he's telling me to be quiet. It's David Bowie.
Okay.
I do have some magic posters. In fact, where there is I tend to collect paintings, and I have one of Fabrini's artwork just over there, and I have Carissa's poster over here, and yeah, I've got quite a few. But the one behind me is actually, it's an oil painting that we had commissioned of David Bowie.
I like it. I like that a lot. So, Banachek, tell me a little bit about what's going to be going on over here with you. That we've had a few people who have over here in the comments section have been asking about what's happening in your life here of late, about whether you've been embracing doing some magic shows virtually. Are you sticking close to home? You traveling a little bit?
I've been busy. Actually, a lot of times busy doing things that I should have been doing that is not making me money, but I'm also busy doing a lot of things that are making me money. I went to Branson for a little bit, worked a variety show there that I was in, and that was for about 2.5 months. We did that, which was a lot of fun. Tony Orlando's a good friend, so I got to go and meet everybody and have a lot of fun with that. But also work and just, it's this thing of when you're not working, you're afraid that you're going to get rusty, right? And I've not had that luxury, I guess, or disappointment of actually getting rusty because I've been out there working. I was listening to everybody, and it was funny listening to Mike and Connie, and I started realizing what a small world our art is, really. I mean, it's huge. It's international, but it's also very, very small. Nick Lang went to Magic Camp, and I'm sure Mike knows him very well. Nick is my right-hand guy. He's also Chris Angel's right-hand guy. He's his producer for all of his shows. And Nick and I got together and decided to go ahead and start to write a virtual show, and we came up with a lot of original effects. But not just that, I also had another guy that worked with Chris Angel, who does all of Chris Angel's video, to be able to do the video and all the graphics. So we ended up with graphics that nobody else have in a virtual show that I'm extremely proud of, probably more proud of that than anything else I think I've ever actually done, just because of the quality and the value that's been put into it. But I just started to book a few college shows, did a few that I went out, and they were COVID friendly. So I ended up putting a COVID friendly show together. And that was really interesting. I mean, how do you do mentalism without bringing people up on stage? And how do you make sure that every effect now doesn't just become a prediction trick, right? And so I found ways to do that, which we can discuss at some point if you want to here. I'm happy to do so. But yeah, I've been busy. I've been writing. This last week, I was editing a lot of videos and cleaning up some online stuff on YouTube. And I put up a ton of videos on there. Everything from skeptical videos that I have more skeptical videos that are going up, magic videos, things that just one-off tricks. And I'll be putting those out once a week as well. But we've been staying really busy with our podcast, and that's called Banachek's Brain. And that's sort of an interesting area for me, because Tyus is my manager and he does that with me, but Tyus has always watched out for my brand. Like there's certain things he won't let me say. There's certain things that I can't put out because it doesn't match with my brand. And even with the podcast, there's a couple podcasts we've not been able to put out because I could get shut down because of just debating things. People might completely take what you say wrong. But it's also an arena where I've been able to be myself. Pretty much. It's an outlet for me to say the things that I want to say that may not have absolutely anything to do with magic. It certainly is not a place for children to venture into. But to answer your question, Scotty, I've been extremely busy. I'm working on TV show pitches right now as well on top of that.
Is that correct? Is it Banachek's Brain with the plural, or is it just singular?
Banachek's Brain, yeah, with an S in there. Mm-hmm. Yep. See, okay. Oh yeah, you got it up there. That's it.
Yeah, great. Harry asked, curious if you're doing anything with Randy's Challenge.
So the Randy's Challenge, I am president now of the JREF, James Randi Educational Foundation. And pretty much what we do is we give out grants to people that to help them within the skeptical movement, people that have shown that they are very active within the skeptical movement, and we help them along by giving out grants. The $1 Million Challenge is no longer open to the public, but the money is still there. We found out that really we were having a huge issue of just so many people applying, but people that would never really be able to take the test. It does attract a lot of mentally ill people, and it attracts some magicians who just want publicity. They don't really want to take it. And the amount of man hours trying to put a test together it's just prohibitive from actually testing people. So what we do now is we go after specific individuals, like Tyler Henry, the Long Island Mystic. We go after the people that are really in the media and in the news. We're opening up as well to people that have passed a preliminary test with somebody else. If somebody that we've actually approved, like CFI, if they go in, they take their test, then and they pass, then we forego our preliminary test. We have a preliminary test and a formal test. We'll do away with our preliminary test. That will act as our preliminary test, and we will test them formally. So it's a little bit more limited, but it's a little bit more focused than it used to be.
Yeah. My son Sean just said radio magic. Yeah, before the podcast, before we did that was something that certainly that we could use in virtual reality and on podcasts then right now, because it is a lot of the things we talk about in radio magic. It can certainly be done in the virtual world then right now too.
Yeah, so much of what we have on that is applicable for today. There are things you do have to watch out for, though. Some of the things that we do suggest, and I've fallen into this category, made the mistake myself, is that so many of the radio productions, they also have cameras hidden all over the place, and they don't always tell you, because what they're doing is they're putting it out on YouTube or Facebook, and they're streaming it live as the actual radio program is happening. So you almost have to think of a radio program as a TV show now. It's not the thing that you could say certain things that have a double meaning, and people at home thought they saw one thing in their heads, and the people there were actually doing something completely different. So you do have to think about those things. But so much what we had in Radio Magic, which is the very first thing we ever did, and that came about because you were doing a high school reunion, and I had done so much radio.
Right.
And you said, I want to go do a radio show. And I was like, all right. And we sat, and I think we talked for like 5-6 hours, and you taped it all, and you went off and you applied everything I said, and you came back, you said, you know what? We have to put this out there. So we did. And that's sort of what started you and I working together back then.
Yeah, that was really our initial project. That was the first thing that we had put together, and then one thing kind of led to another. I think the next one might have been. Well, what was interesting, I think, was when we did the psychokinetic time, because that didn't catch on. I mean, today everybody seems to do that, but remember, we put out the book, and I think we sold 6 in the first year, and maybe 5 the next year. But a couple people were doing it at trade shows, and they said, "Where'd you get that?" And they said, "Well, that was at the time Steve Shaw's," and that then it started catching fire, and we've sold thousands of that since. And that's just
David Blaine even opened his second TV special with that effect, right? So it was a slow creep, and I think it was because it takes. Just like a lot of things that I have, like PK touches, took a while before it really gripped the nation, right? Until of magicians, now all our peers are doing it, but it took a while because it takes guts to actually do those things. You've got to. It's like pickpocketing. You've kind of just got to do it and get away with it, and then you realize how incredible it is, right? So it takes, male genitalia to. I won't mean anything by that, Bonnie. You know what I'm saying. I'm just trying not to use the BALLS word. So, what I want to say, the small world is like the house that I have, Juliana Chen. I bought this from Juliana Chen. So you mentioned Juliana Chen. Lupe, I used to go to a coffee with her like almost every weekend, and with a girl by the name of Penny Wiggins.
Yeah, Penny Wiggins.
She used to work with Jonathan, didn't she?
Yes.
When she like Jonathan.
Jonathan, amazing Jonathan shows up as well.
Tanya, Psycho Tanya.
Psychic Tanya.
Psychic Tanya. She's fabulous.
Yeah, and I used to date Amazing Jonathan's other assistant, Erica Van Lee, back then as well.
Okay.
So it's a very Lupe is one of the most incredible human beings you could ever want to meet, and she is so knowledgeable, and she is so humble. Like when you first meet her, you don't realize. I mean, you realize she's sweet, but you just don't realize how intelligent and how smart this woman is. She really is an incredible lady.
Yeah, no, because I was talking about, Norm's business, what I was talking about and what Lupe's done with it, and how it's this beautiful, professional, just exquisite piece of work. That's all Lupe. She's
Her
a diamond.
woodwork is amazing, absolutely amazing.
But everything, her quality of work, like every product, she does these tutorials on building the products, and if you watch her step by step and every detail it's just so precise and meticulously formed. I have nothing but wonderful things to say about her, and I think everybody does. She's just a spectacular person.
Well, the way that she also had so lovingly cared for Norm in his final years when his Alzheimer got worse, the things that she did, I still to this day still think about pictures that she posted of her clipping his toenails and different things that she did for him. It's kind of like, that is just true love. I mean, I can appreciate doing things for my wife in her final days then also, and what you have to do for people you love. And I can fully appreciate what she did. And it was she's just a wonderful human being.
Yeah.
I love you, Scotty, but I am not trimming your toenails.
Come on, man.
You draw the line there.
Come on, brother.
Oh, I draw the line long before that.
Magic is quite a small world. You guys were talking about so Amazing Jonathan's wife is from Toronto.
Anastasia?
Anna, yeah. And dated another guy here before she went out to Vegas. And so I've known her for super long time.
Yeah, I had Anastasia on the podcast, and it was all about the bionics. It's all about all the stuff she's putting in her skin, from magnets to electronics. There was a point that she wanted to put in her back, a thing that would let her know where true north is at any time. And I just thought, man, that would be irritating. Completely irritating.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know you can have such a thing like that now.
For that stuff. She's like a cyborg.
She's a cyborg.
Yeah.
What kind of electronics has she got? I mean, I know that she's got magnets and things embedded, but what kind of electronic things has she got?
She's got things that will turn switches on and off if she brings her hand up to it. She's got things that are readers and will pass it on to something else. She's got, I mean, I honestly don't know what she has now because she's had so much done. The big one she had for a long time was a big neodynamic magnet put under her skin, right? And so she could attract things to it, and she could do sleight of hand and make things disappear and stick to where her arm was. Like she'd come up and it's gone.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. John Archer thinks you do.
Yeah.
John thinks you do his toenails.
John? No. I've seen John naked. I'm not doing his toenails.
All righty then.
Oh, dear.
Well, I think
I
you've
love
seen probably a lot of us naked.
When John and I get together, like the few times that we do, we make each other laugh so much that by the time we're done after 2 or 3 days, we have to leave each other because our jaws are hurting so bad. Literally, my jaw has never hurt that bad in my life. Here's a nickname for me.
You know, Jamie Salinas says that John Archer is the #1 funniest man in the world. I mean, it's like, well, hey, you know, funnier than Mike Finney and funnier than
Yeah,
he said,
I think that John and I have in common is in my early days, I really pushed the psychological mentalist. Max had pushed it a little bit and a few other people, but I pushed it really hard. And I took Annette Rutledge's, you know, takes your 5 known senses, create the illusion of a 6. And he used it for a one-off. I said, can I really take that out there and push it? Because I think it's a great way to go. And so I did. And a lot of mentalists were upset. They said there's no place for a fake mind reader. And I thought, yeah, there is. And then I started taking awards in the college market. And they would say, well, Banachek's the exception. And now that's kind of become the norm. You know, using psychology or sort of that Sherlock Holmes look, it's become sort of the norm of reading subtle cues. And it doesn't have to be psychic. Well, Archer came up against that in the beginning, I think, too. And I'm not so sure he knows he did. I'm sure he knows he did. But people said there's no place for a comedic mentalist. You have to be serious all the time. And I knew they were wrong because I had worked comedy clubs. Scott, you know, back in the day, I was working a ton of comedy clubs and I headlined immediately. So I knew it was there. But Archer, really, I mean, he proved to the world out there is a place for comedy mind reading, and people will still take you serious. And he's absolutely brilliant when it comes to that.
No, that's true. And I was I was with him in Cuba when he was performing a midnight show in a discotheque in English to a Cuban-speaking group that just wanted to hook up with the other sex and dance.
Do they speak Cuban or Spanish, Scott?
Well, I don't know. I guess Spanish. Was it Spanish?
I think it's a Cuban form of Spanish, right?
Yes.
I don't know.
I think they have their own dialect. Someone might correct me.
We'll call it Cubanese.
Cubanese. Yes. That. Anyhow, I think that he was brilliant because he was feeling, oh my gosh, I was dying out there. All the magicians were, of course, loving it, but he just kind of went through, played his ukulele, and I think still he didn't kill a lot of people, but I think he killed quite a few. He killed pretty good. It was still good, you know. So anyhow, he was
only time I've ever seen John upset with me. Now that we've complimented him, is we are going from Guernsey. We're going to be taking a ferry from Guernsey over to Sark, and some kid kept staring at John. And I looked at the kid. I said, "No, kid, he's really not Shrek."
That's what I say about Martin Cox. I think Martin Cox looks like Shrek, or maybe Fester from the Addams Family over there. You mentioned Sark, by the way, and can you talk a little bit about that? I know that's like is Sark an island, or was that an event, or is that the person who booked you guys for the show, or?
It's a secret society, Scott. I'm not.
Never mind. Okay.
About it.
Never mind.
A group of us get together as a secret society. And Sark is sort of the headquarters. And Sark is this wonderful island in the middle of nowhere in the English Channel. And we would go there as a group. And I'm not going to name all the names that would go there, but you know it's me and at least John right now. And we would spend a week there, and we would brainstorm, and we would laugh, and we would have fun, and we would have good meals. But ultimately, in the end, what we did was a big show for the island of Sark. And you think, wow, and it was an entire nation. We performed for an entire nation because that's how small that nation was. But it was like all sheep farmers and sheep herders. But it's also a place where very rich people buy a house so that they can keep their money there because it's on its own sovereignty and not have to necessarily pay the taxes elsewhere. So, but what we've gone other places around the world. It's a society. It's a secret society. Can't tell you how you become a member. Can't tell you how to find it. Not allowed to do any of those things. It just kind of happens.
I understand. No problem.
Amazing we got that much from you.
Yeah.
You got more. I'm probably going to be killed by my own members.
Yeah, but you know how I'm listening to this and I'm thinking how important it is to include comedy and to have humor in magic and in your show. And all of you have humor and comedy, and it's so important.
Yeah.
So
I think even mentalists that want to be serious, there are moments of levity that you can put in there, and there's a reason for doing it. This has been such a positive that I hate to bring any negativity in it because it's been so positive, but I'm gonna have to touch on one little thing. When I see somebody doing something that's very similar to mine or that I've come up with, I don't immediately assume that they stole it from me. But there are times that somebody will do a routine, like I have a blindfold routine that I do, and there's a couple of lines that I have in there, but they're not there they're not there just for the laughter, and they're hack lines, but they're there for very specific reasons. For instance, there's one line that I use where I pretend a lady pinches me on the behind at one point. And I only use that if I have objects on the table and I can't quite see something, like a word or something. I need to look around it. I'll act like she pinched me on the butt, and then I'll turn around and I'll move forward out of her way. But now it allows me to get a glimpse of that. But there's a line that I use there. And when I see somebody else use that exact same line in that exact same place, but they don't know why they're using it, I know that they've basically stole the routine, that it wasn't just coincidence.
Yeah.
There's a point in a Q&A routine, question and answer, where I know information about somebody ahead of time, but I've pre-showed them. And there's a point in there where I turn and I say, we've never met before. You seem happy about that. Hack line, really hack line, right? And I hate the line, but I use it for a reason, because when they laugh, what that does, when I say that line, it makes the audience think that I've never spoke to that person before, but I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is a joke, basically. We've never met before. I don't know anything about you, right? I don't know where you're from. You seem happy about that. So it's twofold why I'm doing that. If somebody else does that right in that exact same place, I know that they're stealing that routine from me at that point, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're the first one starting to say cheek to cheek when people were sending back to back, and then it's gotten to be part of the regular vernacular, but you were the first one to come up with that line.
I don't know if I was or not. I've been using it for so long. You know how we start? It's another thing sometimes. I think we always have to step back, even as professionals. See, professionals do this all the time. And a lot of people that I've worked with, a lot of them, you give them something or they learn something, a routine, and all of a sudden, years later, that little thing or that thing is theirs. And it didn't come from them. They forget that, right? So I hate to say something like that. Scott is mine. I think it was probably around before that, but I've been using it since probably my first shows in the 70s or something like that. So I honestly don't know if it first came from me. It probably did not. It just seems like a hack line that would have been around before me.
Well, but then also that the drawing duplication, I think with the cat's whiskers or something. I think there was some line or something, I believe.
There's a lot of subtleties in there that I have. I'm basically forcing a cat on somebody if they're going to draw that, right? But I don't know how they're going to draw the cat. So there's a couple of subtleties there. One is I don't actually draw the cat because I know my cat's not going to look like their cat. It's much better for me to describe that it's a cat. Now I could just say it's a cat, and that's great. That's amazing. It's strong. But if I stand back to back somebody and I say, I want you to go hard, start drawing it now. Now, I know how most people, unless they're an artist, is going to draw a cat. I know they're going to draw a circle. It's going to be the head of the body, but more than likely the head. I say, go ahead, start drawing. Stop. Did you just draw a circle or part of a circle? I say part of a circle because one time a lady drew a circle but didn't close the neck, and she just wouldn't give it to me. She said, well, it's part of a circle. I went, okay. So now I say that because it doesn't take, it's no extra really verbiage, anything. It's just a circle or part of a circle. They say yes. So to the audience, it's like, it's incredible at that point that I knew that they even drew a circle because they could be drawing anything, right? As far as they know, I don't know it's a cat. I say, go ahead and continue. Do me a favor, go ahead and stop. Do two triangles mean anything to you? Now, I don't say, did you just draw two triangles? I say, do two triangles mean anything to you? Without any real thought, even if they haven't drawn the ears, they know it's the ears. And if they go, I go two small triangles, immediately they go ears. They go, yes. That makes the audience think that that person just drew a circle and they drew two triangles. I could stop right there if I wanted to, not even say what it is, right? Because to them, that's a real miracle. How did he know they drew a circle? How did he know they drew two triangles, right? But then I say, go ahead, keep going. Let me know when you're done. By using that verbiage, that hurries them up, right? So now they start drawing everything else. And then I'll say, and this is sort of the creme de la creme on the whole thing, I say, did you forget to put a mouth on this? Now, I would say probably 49 out of 50 times they will forget to have put the mouth. And the reason being is they would draw in the circle, they would draw in the ears, and then I took them outside and rushed them to draw the rest of the body, basically, is what happened. So they forget to do that. So to the audience, not only did I know they drew a triangle, not only did I know that they drew two triangles and a circle, right? I knew their mistake. I knew they forgot to put a mouth on it. But if they say, no, I went ahead and put it, I go, oh, I didn't get that. But now I can come back and get the cat. And there's another thing to that at the very end that I actually get the name of the cat, and it appears like they just thought of that. But basically, Scott, what you're talking about is all those other subtleties of rather than just saying you drew a cat. It's like I know what they're thinking as they're thinking, and I even know the mistake that they made along the way. That is true mind reading, and it's not that. Is there an A, a B? Because that can get really boring and really tiring in any mentalism routine. And I've seen it. I think it was why for the longest time mentalism had a really bad reputation. It was very, very boring quite often, and it was often done in sort of that old lecture style. And that kind of worked before Dunninger days, but even when Dunninger came out, he was a lot quicker and fast-paced than the mentalists prior to him.
Well, I think that the thing that differentiates you from other mentalists and cause you to break out were the subtleties, certainly. It's not like what you're thinking, but how you're thinking. That's a subtle difference in and of itself. But
you can get lost in that. You can just keep doing so much of that it becomes boring. You got to know when to put it in and when to stop, right? Put enough of it in for the subtlety makes the effect strong, but not so much that you show, look how clever I am, right? Because that's the problem. I think that's a problem with many tricks. You can get a perfect magic trick that you buy. The guy who was doing it his entire life, it's so perfect that the way it is. Change the verbiage. Don't get me wrong. Change the story and everything else. But somebody always wants to improve something, and quite often they improve something to the point where they actually hurt it. Because in everything, every effect that we perform as magicians, there's always a sacrifice. And what we're really looking at effect is what's the weakest sacrifice we can actually give them, and what's the strongest effect, entertaining effect, because our job is an entertainer, and we get caught up that quite often where we try to fool other magicians, and that's the problem right there. It's like, what is the cleverest thing we can do? That's not always the strongest, and that's not always the most entertaining thing to lay people.
You know, last week we had Howard Hamburg on, and one of the things that he had mentioned that Di Vernon had talked about that was, among many things, was one little subtlety, which I think was a brilliant thing that I'm going to try to always remember. And that is when someone, let's say you put sponge balls in someone's hand or coins or whatever, and then you say, what have you got in your hand? They're going to say two, one in the hand, two in the pot, whatever it is. And they're going to say two, and they open up, they've got three or something. He said, in order to make that stronger, you say, what should you have? Not what do you have, what should you have? And then, that way they're going to say, well, I should have two, but I don't know. And then when they do, it's a bigger surprise. A subtlety, but it's a big difference.
Right.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that they don't say, because sometimes they will actually answer you of what they know it's going to be, even though they have no clue how you did it. But if you say should, that changes everything, because, well, I should have two. Now you can interrupt them before that actually continues. It was one of the things that I saw Kreskin do years ago, and I learned from, and it was actually a mistake. Kreskin has a lot of brilliant little subtleties that he does, but he did a thing on a TV show where he's dealing cards, and he said, at some point, you're going to feel a compulsion to tell me to stop anytime. And he went through all the cards, and I didn't say stop. And he said, and they said, well, I didn't feel a compulsion. You're much better off dealing the cards, say stop anytime, And then when they stop now, you say, you felt a compulsion to stop at that card. You now label their action after the fact rather than leaving open-ended to where you have to keep going, especially if you're on a TV show. One-on-one, a little bit different, right? Because you have lots of time. But on a TV show, you truly want them to stop before you get to the end of the deck.
Well, that's true. That's another thing, of course, I think in mentalism, a lot of times that you want to leave the impression that something happened. In other words, that you want to have them select something, and if they don't, then you're going to continue your sentence as if that you haven't finished it. Like, I want you to say the name of your card, and they do, and I said, but not out loud. After they've already done that or something, but then you already are ahead. I mean, different things like that, so that you could, again, a little subtlety as to how that you would use your speech. So, boy,
there's an old picture duplication where you're blindfolded, but you can get a peek, but you don't turn around. You're facing the other way, and you have them draw a picture, and then you say, and then you take the pad. If you haven't been able to peek them drawing it or something like that, you say, "All right, hand me the pad." And you say, "Now go ahead and fold it up." And they go, "Oh, I didn't tear it off." You go, "Oh, go ahead." So now you get to actually see what it is on the pad. But you only use that if you didn't get a peek at what they were drawing.
Yeah, well, that's a good subtlety. Yeah, because their memory is later that you never saw the pad.
Right.
Then
it was their mistake, not yours. Yeah.
That's right. Mike, did you guys teach magic? I'm sorry, mentalism. Then also in the camp later on, you say it was card heavy at first. Did you later start teaching some mentalism as well? And who'd you bring in?
There was some, and I'm trying to think, but we never really focused on that. Our campers were 10 to 20 years old, and so they wanted to do shows, they wanted to learn sleight of hand, and they wanted to learn illusions, basically. But I'm trying to think. We had some, and I hate that I can't think of it right now, but we had a super strong mentalism program. So in the week of camp runs a full week. The longest we did was 10 days, which was a little too long. So we stop at 7 days, and we do a show on 6 of those nights, like a full gala show kind of thing. We had a great guy who came in and did all our tech, set up the stage. Steve Klein, he did Magi Fest. He did a bunch of different conventions, and he's just a whiz with that kind of stuff. So we did these big shows, but I'm trying to think of who, and I can't. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's definitely there. We've got one of our campers, Keith Brown, is now a Canadian mentalist, I guess. And doing well, like makes a living. So,
hey, Chuck Arkin just showed up. That one of the friends of the Magic Word. Hello there, Chuck. Glad that you joined us. Then also, Connie, have you ever tried or worked anything and done any mentalism actually yourself?
Yeah. And can I just go back to what Benachek said, because I think it's just fascinating, the power of words and phrasing and listening, and
yes.
It sounds effortless, but there's a lot of thought and depth and layers that has gone into it. And I think so many, even professionals, aren't aware of all of the little subtleties. And if you are aware of the subtleties, you can apply that, whether you're an illusionist, a psychic magician, anything, because it's across the board. It just, it's that finesse. It's that attention to detail. Yep. But to answer your question, yes, I did Don Wayne's room prediction, which was a beautiful piece of magic for me, because they predicted my room number and it matched, and we adapted it we have image projection in most of the theaters I work, so we perform it in the middle of the audience, and it's on it's the key is around a ribbon around the volunteer's neck, so it's in full view the whole time, so it makes it so much stronger, because when the camera magnifies the numbers that has been in the middle of the audience, we get a really strong reaction. So I'm a big advocate of having a lot of diversity in a show and having different forms of magic, and mentalism magic is very powerful if it's performed well.
Yeah, no, That's no question. I think that part of the problem, I wrote an article about this some time ago, that it used to be that I think people didn't want to get into mentalism because it required you to actually memorize, or rather, first of all, to write a script and to say the script, as opposed to doing a trick that's kind of self-working and you just kind of walk through it. You actually have to perform. It's kind of like a comedian on stage in front of a naked microphone, just you and the audience, because you're there with a notepad or whatever. And mentalism, I think, is much more difficult to perform than regular magic. Although that somebody also had sent over here to you, just a minute, where was this, Mike, about teaching dove magic? I guess you guys taught dove magic then. Well,
we did. There was a lot. But before we leave, and that's Laurent. Laurent was one of the guys at the camp. Laurent does an amazing dove act. Laurent's from Quebec, Canada, and it's got like a FISM caliber dove act. It's retarded. Wow. But it was, honestly, it was like Greg Fruin. I'm biased. So Greg's, I loved Lance's. I loved Lance's, but then I really liked Greg's. It was like the next step. Laurent had one like on par with them. And so he was our dub guy. But I just want to go back to what you were saying about mentalism. In my experience, mentalism is the only magic that I find people believe. If you understand what I'm saying. At the end of a show, everybody's like, oh, you cut the girl in half, you made him float, you did this, you did that. But did you really know this thing? And I kind of like that. I don't do enough, but I kind of like the idea of what we're doing is somehow grounded in some kind of a reality. It's not just an illusion. It's, as Banachek said, you're reading body signals or you're doing whatever, but people do believe that strongly.
Yeah, Mike, I have to
true.
say something on that, just because I would feel remiss if I didn't say something on that, just because it's something I feel strongly about. The problem with people believing too much, it's okay to make them wonder how, is a lie is a lie is a lie. And I think what we do when we start saying this is all psychic or this is all NLP, or I have a lot of disclaimers in my show. I'm not telling anybody else what to do, but I can tell you the pitfalls of this is if you start saying everything is one of those things, you leave yourself open, and rightfully so, for exposure, because now you're not saying it's entertainment, from a reporter who can write an expose piece, and that hurts everybody. It hurts every legitimate magician or mentalist that is working because it's exposing our secrets. I know there's a group of people that are going to come. They're going to believe no matter what I say. There's a group of people that are going to come that aren't going to believe no matter what I say. But there's this large group in the middle. We become the authoritative voice of what they've never seen before. They're seeing this incredible, impossible things, as you just said, that leads them down the road of actually believing. So I feel a responsibility to those people to remind them, this is entertainment. I'm not trying to change your belief systems. You believe what you want to believe, so long as you're not hurting anybody else. So I think to me, that's why it's important to have a disclaimer when I'm performing, because it is so strong and it does feel so real. But good magic should feel real. Like it shouldn't. There's nothing wrong with being a magic mentalist or doing mental magic. But I think that's more about the performer than the actual prop itself. I mean, Darren Brown did the dollhouse illusion as a prediction. What could be more magical than a dollhouse illusion? But it seemed so real. I used to try to come up with ways, how can I use a magic effect, the trick that actually looks so magical? The little sliding drawers, I can't think what they had, the little dragons on the side.
Little die box.
Yeah. It would make the quarter vanish. And I was like, how can I turn that into a mentalist effect? I realized, it doesn't just vanish things, it switches things too. So if I have a bunch of quarters with different dates and they're all turned face down, they put one in, they close it, I concentrate and tell them what it is, they open it up. That's a mental effect. And why is it a mental effect rather than mental magic? Because it's not about the box. It's about the divination of the actual quarter itself. If I'm using an electronic die, it becomes not about the die, it becomes about the people. Take them away from that. I have a lot of people tell me, well, I can't use the die because people think it's a trick die. And I'm thinking to myself, that's because of your presentation. It's about you as the actual performer.
And not the prop.
Yeah. Yeah,
You don't want
exactly.
the emphasis to be on the prop. That's just something that is incidental to the story that you're telling.
In mentalism, you definitely don't want it to be that, but it's just like what Mike said. You can buy an illusion and do it, and I think you said it too, Scott, and you don't have to worry about your scripting. You don't have to worry so much about you as a performer because the trick is so strong in itself that you can be a crappy performer, but they like the magic.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you know, some years ago that it was, I had Jamie and I were doing our seances, and when he was, and what we would understand, of course, before he went in, is that there were some people who brought different beliefs into the seance as to whether they believed that this existed, and some believed that it didn't exist, and others were skeptical and they were just there for the fun of it or whatever. But the point is, you're not going to change people's belief system just within a 1 hour show or 90-minute show.
You can change their belief systems, and that's the
Really?
danger. The danger I can go on stage and come off as a look. When I do my personal show about my life called Telepathy, the whole first half of the show is me actually performing as a genuine psychic and talking about what telepathy is and doing the most horrible thing I can think a human being can do, and that's talking to their dead relatives. The second half of the show is actually talking to them about my life, and that I think that stuff is all BS. But I've had people write to us, and I had one girl write. She said, "You know what? Thank you. I've always been a skeptic. My mom has always been a believer. And we can't talk about this stuff without getting in a really big, bad argument, and we don't talk for days. Halfway through your show, I started believing you were genuine, that you were absolutely real, and I thought I had been wrong, and I was about to apologize to my mom after the show. At the end of the show, my mom realized that she could actually be fooled by these things, and we had the best conversation we've ever had in our entire lives about psychic phenomena, and neither one of us got mad. We were able to debate things. We were able to talk about things. So, yes, I mean, that's the problem, right? I think if you take a look at any psychic that's out there, the John Edwards of the world, the Von Pragues, that's exactly what they're doing. They're doing mentalism, and they are changing people's belief systems. People who often go to those things skeptical, most of them believe, but they're surrounded by all these people who believe. So that is in their favor of actually be changing. So yeah, I can certainly change somebody's belief system by performing a very, very strong mentalism set to the point to where they may not have believed ahead of time. They were skeptical, but they didn't have enough information. And now I've got them believing in this kind of stuff. And the problem with that is once they start believing in these little things, the same thing that people say, what was the problem with like Uri Gallo and people like that? The problem is they chip away slowly but surely at people's critical thinking processes to the point where people they don't know. It's something you have to practice. They don't know how to think critically anymore. And they just start believing in anything and everything, including all this superstition and these conspiracy theories that we have out there. They don't know how to think about them critically.
Well, somebody mentioned earlier about the James Randi Foundation and everything, about the kinds of things. I know the $1 Million Challenge. There are some people here tonight among the people who are watching and who will view it later who may not understand about the $1 Million Challenge. I know we're well past our usual happy hour, but I think this is interesting, and we have a lot of people who are hanging on to everything that we're all saying in this. Can you describe a little bit about the $1 Million Challenge and what that actually is? Because you were saying you've got some people who come in, for an example, and say, I'll make sure that no elephants will come into the room for the next 1 hour. Well, see, I worked. I have a power. There's no elephant.
That is not an exaggeration. It's the wrong, phrasing, but it's not. I had people that would send me Lego pieces conformed in a certain way, and they say, "There's my proof. Give me the $1 million." I had a lady from Australia that would call and leave phone calls, and she said, "I predict that I'm going to predict," which is a very weird way of wording things.
I'm going to predict that I'm going to predict.
The lottery, the Australian lottery, and these are the numbers. The next week she would call and leave them again and say, "I was wrong last week, but I know what went wrong." And this went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. I had a guy who told me that he could predict, he could stop earthquakes before they happen. He could actually stop them. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. I said, "How are you going to stop an earthquake?" He said, "Well, you're going to find a genuine psychic." I went, "Okay, if I could find a genuine psychic, they would get the $1 million. But let's say they're a billionaire already and they don't care about it, right?" He said, "They're going to validate. I'm going to predict when an earthquake's going to happen. They're going to validate my prediction." I said, "All right, I think I see where this is going, but okay, keep going." He said, "And once they validate the prediction and you know that it's going to happen beyond 100%, I'm going to go ahead and stop the earthquake with my power." So I said, "So you're going to stop an earthquake that you're actually predicting?" He said, "Yep." I went, okay. I had another guy that said his mustache curls in the presence of ghosts. I'm like, how do we prove this? He says, well, capture a ghost and I'll walk in the room and my mustache will curl. So these are the kind of things we often would have to deal with. And we had to deal with them, right? Because they were an applicant and some of them had filled out applications. So, yeah, so that was a lot of the nonsense that we had to deal with. And quite often there were other things that would take maybe a couple of thousand trials before we could actually see any difference in what they were talking about with it. And so as you said, that the $1 Million Challenge is still there, but it's not for people to apply to. It's for us to now apply it to people that we think are really in the news. And, will a lot of those people not take it? Probably not. They've got way too much to lose. They're already making millions. And I'll expose those people when I can. When somebody is self-deceived, I won't necessarily expose. Back in the day, I wouldn't expose them as an individual, but I might expose the method that they're actually using, so long as it's not something that we're using within the magic community. Because you know what? It's kind of like, with magic, it's a thing of like, we have a contract with our audience. Just by the fact that we're saying it's magic, we are already putting it into context, not the esoterical magic, right? But magicians will say, look, I'm going to fool you. You're going to come to my show and you're going to enjoy being fooled. And that's fine. Some people will say, well, as a mentalist, if you were an actor on stage and you were doing Macbeth, you're not going to stop in the middle and go and say, I'm not really Macbeth, just want you to know in case you're confused. Well, of course not, because that's the context. You go see a play, you know it's not real. But when I perform on that stage, they don't know if I'm real or not. I am the context right there. I'm on the same stage that a neurosurgeon can get on and can do an actual lecture. And then very quickly, they realize this guy knows what he's talking about. He's showing videos. He's showing him operating on somebody's brain. He is a real neurosurgeon. So I have that responsibility, I feel. But again, I'm not telling everybody else what they should do. I'm just saying what I think and what I feel. And I feel like I'm taking way too much time because the other people you have on this show are much more fascinating than I am and have so much more to share than I do. So can we go back to them for a little bit? Because I'm feeling a little bit.
Starting to feel a little self-conscious there, are you?
Yeah,
I know what you mean. Sometimes I feel like I'm the one who commands the conversation, but no, it's been delightful. I thank you very much. I think we're probably wrapping up over here on the time.
Alan Gittleson just brought something up, and I do have to say this. By the way, Alan, I'm very interested to hear about that other thing about the cat. But Alan Gittleson, who's actually brilliant as well, but he said we had a person that said they could make somebody urinate on command. And he did say that. And so what we did was we put a diaper on a full-grown man, set him in a chair, and said, have a go at it. And the guy didn't pee. So, yeah. And we had another guy who could make himself invisible. And so we brought people in from outside, brought him in. He said, and he turned the lights out. And he said he glows in the dark is what he said, basically. He's invisible and he can glow in the dark. So we turned the lights out. We asked everybody, can you see him? They said no. And anyway, yeah.
So somebody just asked also, Eric Schmidt asked whether or not that you can see some of your debunking somewhere. Is there something on YouTube?
Yeah,
or something?
I'm not so much into the school of actually debunking because that means you actively have to go out and investigate something. I'm not an investigator. I'm not a psychic investigator, at least not now I am. I am putting a whole bunch up on my Banachek YouTube, and you can go on there. Those will be coming out. I have a few effects that are coming out right now for the next couple of weeks, and in about 3 weeks, there'll be some of the, we did do a whole bunch with psychics online where we test them for the $1 Million Challenge. There's a piece where I go after some spiritualists. So those will end up being online. So just go there and take a look and subscribe, and you won't miss them.
Okay. All right. Well, we're going to start to wrap up over here. That this is just, wow, I can't believe that we've gone well over an hour over here with everything that we've had to say. That this has been a delightful conversation among a lot of great friends. It's great having you guys here. And Connie, can you say just a little bit more about Magical Women and where people should go and subscribe and what they should do to help you out a little bit?
Okay. We launched Magical Women in June of last year, and we interviewed some of the best magicians, female magicians in the world. And you can watch their talks at Magical Women on our YouTube channel, Magical Women with Connie Boyd. We also have a Facebook page, but that's more to promote the YouTube channel. So I would say to follow the YouTube channel. We also provide monthly articles in Vanish magazine, and we're going to be providing with Abra TV. We're going to be providing Magical Women in the News, and so it's a new news channel that we're launching this month. And so it's been pretty exciting, and it's become a full-time job. And I'm just trying to keep up and keep engaged and positive.
Well, that's what we all have to do right now during this time while we are all kind of just staying indoors and being quarantined and everything. I was just glad that I had the opportunity to get my shot yesterday. So I've got my first one.
Oh, good for you.
Good.
I'm an old guy, so I qualified. And so I got that. And so I got another one coming up in a couple of weeks. So at least that I have that right now. So anyhow, we're all in this together right now. And so, Mike, what have you got going on? What are people? What should people look out for your next project?
I'm just waiting for the world to open up again so I can start performing. The camp, sadly, is done. However, it may get resurrected. I've talked to a few people. It will not be virtual. So again, we just have to wait until the world opens. But sorcerersafari.com. themagiccamp.com or magicmike.com, and you can see what I'm doing.
Sounds good. My friend Jim Grow, enjoy. Got to go pee. I think that's probably right. Yeah, after a few martinis, I'm kind of the same way over here. Banachek, you got just a ton of stuff going on. You got a lot of balls in the air all the time that you're juggling. So
try to avoid the word balls, Scotty. Earlier, you just. Right in there.
Well, just because you saw John Archer naked, I mean, I'm not going to go there.
Partially naked. I'll go partially naked. There's one thing I want to say real quick to Bonnie and Mike, and I personally, I want to thank you both for everything that you both have done for the art of magic. I mean, Mike, you were mentioning names earlier at Magic Camp, and so many fantastic magicians that we see now that are out there, it was because they were able to have that experience at Magic Camp and be there with you. And Connie, I know that you've, like on the cruise ships, and you work with individuals, you create shows with them, and you've just done so much to promote magic in such a positive way. So probably not my place to do this, but I would feel remiss, and I would miss the opportunity to tell you both, thank you both very much for everything you've done for our art. And I believe, unlike some people, that it is an art. It's just not always represented in art, because I think we from the inside, magicians, often hurt our art ourselves by trying to show how smart we are when we're showing how we're not. And I have a whole magician rules on that kind of thing. But you are two individuals that have done everything that you can to promote our art in the most positive light that you possibly can. You too, Scotty. Didn't mean to leave you out on that. You do that with your podcast, and you've been doing that for a very long time as well. So thank all three of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we thank you. We have to thank you. No, really. Thank you.
It's a mutual admiration society here, I think.
Definitely.
A virtual hug.
Exactly. Since we can't all be there together in person, that's the next best thing, I guess, that we can actually do. That you guys have been lovely. Thank you very much for being part of this evening. I love you guys all, and this is part of the advantage, I think, that we have, since we can't be together, that it allows us the opportunity to reach people across the pond. I mean, we had John Archer from England and other people who have traveled, who are staying up late around the world. And I know people who will be watching this later over the next few days that will increase the views on this video then as well. I implore everyone, if you are watching this, to please share this with your other friends and to let them know about this, so they'll come back and join us then for these each Thursday night. We always have a lot of very interesting guests and interesting conversations, and an opportunity for all of us to have a little conversation, and for you to kind of the viewer, to actually contribute a little bit. One thing that I want to point out then too, or invite anyone to, is that we're going to be having for the our Houston Magic Society. We've got the an IBM and SAM group, as well as the Houston Association of Magicians, are having our annual banquet coming up on Valentine's Day, which is February the 14th. And I would recommend that you seriously consider attending this. It's going to be 7 o'clock, beginning at 7 o'clock on p.m. On the 14th. That's Central Time, and we're going to be having people from all around the world, and we're going to have some local people, but it'll be a regular installation of officers. Typically, we have about 400 people who come to our banquet live, but in fact, that many years ago, Banachek, that you had introduced the bullet catch at one of our banquets. You remember?
That's right. Yeah, I actually had to do it. I didn't have a partner with me, so I actually had to figure a way how to do it with a spectator, and was able to do it. I think it was Campagna. What was her name?
I think PJ Campagna was the person who actually
was on here. Actually, PJ's on here. So a minute ago,
Yeah.
PJ was one of the ones that actually signed the bullet. That was before I gave it to Penn and Teller, who. I say gay, but they ended up paying me for it, which I didn't want to get paid, but they did. That's another long story.
Another long story. But my point is that this is going to be a banquet that'll be fantastic, and we're going to be having a lot of performers, which will include Suzanne the Magician, Banachek. We got Murray the Magician, and Fielding West, and Franz Araya. So many people that if you go to HoustonMagic.com, HoustonMagic.com, there you will find a link. Please click on that. It will register you for Zoom because we're only going to have so many seats available in the Zoom room, and we want to see you there. And it's only going to be a one-time thing. So in other words, that Banachek has given us something that we're not going to everyone to see or know about. So it's going to be a one first and only time you're going to really be able to see this, and other kinds of things too that are proprietary. So we're not going to be having this on YouTube or Facebook. Once it's over, it's over. It's just like art, that you see it, a performance, and it won't be happening again. So HoustonMagic.com, you want to be sure to go and register for that. It's coming up again February the 14th. That's a Sunday night, 7 p.m. I guess that's redundant when you say p.m. and night. I hate that. That's one of my pet peeves. So 7 p.m. On Sunday, the 14th of that's Central Time then as well. But again, HoustonMagic.com will give you the information. That's right. That's right. PJ says we were there. That's right. PJ, you were the one.
Who's opening that convention up, Scott? The HOM.
Well, since you mentioned it, I will tell those of you who are here right now, but it'll be opened by Uri Geller.
Who's closing it?
I think we might kind of round this out with Banachek, possibly.
It's just a way for you to get more people signing up, not because of me, but
that's right. And I thank you guys. Another thing too is that today on the Magic Word podcast, of course, this virtual happy hour that we're having here is something that is just complimentary to the podcast that I release every Thursday. So this is a Thursday night Magic and Martinis, and in fact, that I was just talking to Pat Hazel today, and I'm going to have him come up in a future week. But he was on the In and of Itself video. If you've not seen the movie yet by Derek Delgadio on Hulu, oh my gosh, it is fantastic. Did any of you ever see that live by chance in Vegas? I mean, in New York? You saw it, Banachek? Yeah. Amazing.
I did not.
Yeah.
So it's on. Heard positive about this show. I'm so looking forward to seeing it. Actually,
it just almost brings me to tears just thinking about it. I mean, it was one of the best magic shows and best movies I've ever seen. It's all together. It's got the whole package, and Derek Delgadio just does a fantastic job. And Helder, his friend, is going to be having his show again. He had something, I think it was called The Present, about a year ago, and it was a virtual show, and he's going to be doing this again called The Future, which they've just released some tickets for that then as well. Hey, and Bob Emery, who is a past president of the Texas Association of Magicians. Thank you very much, Bob. Yep, we did have some great guests here today. Glad that you could join us. So as I said, that today we had on our podcast, we released Ken Scott, and Ken's going to be the incoming international president of the International Brotherhood of Magicians. Their convention is planned for Pittsburgh later in July the 2nd through the 5th or 6th or something like that. And also that the Atlanta Harvest of Magic is something that he organizes. And if you go to themagicwordpodcast.com, you'll see a link there where you can fill in your name and email address and register for a free registration that we're going to be drawing someone's name to possibly win a free registration for the Atlanta Harvest of Magic, which is coming up in October. Everything else really is kind of being pushed forward convention-wise from what I've talked with Stan Allen and some other people, that Stan's still planning on having Magic Live in August. And prior to that, during that same week leading up to Magic Live, is going to be the Magic Collectors. I just heard today that from Richard Wiseman that he's got a new book that is David Copperfield book that is going to be coming out in October. And it is pictures from his museum taken by Homer Luwag, and then talking about that. And it, I think, looks to be great. And that's going to be something that is only available right now for pre-order on Amazon. And so that's kind of cool. And so just a lot of stuff that are happening next week on the podcast, since you guys are here, that I can tell you that we've got some other folks. Can see who's coming up next week on the podcast. I'm going to have Tim Wise, who is going to. Well, that's right. Thanks, Jeffrey. Abbott's is going to be going also. Yes, we're going to be having Abbott's get together, which is going to be in early August, and I plan on being there. That's going to be great. Thanks, Jeffrey. I appreciate you reminding me about that. I definitely want to be at that. At least that's not going to be competing with Magic here this year, Magic Live convention. And so let me see if I can talk a little bit more real quickly. As I said, next week we're going to have Tim Wise on the podcast. We just had Luna Shimada last week. If you haven't had a chance to go back and listen to that, I put these out every week. I'm slowly coming up on number 600 episode. The one today, I believe, was number 597. And the number 600 is going to be a very special guest. I always like to have someone special on those milestone types of podcasts. I believe in the past, like I've had for the 600 and 650, I've had Uri Geller, I've had Paul Daniels, I've had David Berglas, and so I'm going to have someone equally great, and perhaps might be a mentalist who is going to be coming up on the 600th episode. So it's going to be a secret and something coming up. So if you haven't subscribed to the pod letter, be sure to do that. That is, there's nothing to it. All you have to do is just to go to the magicwordpodcast.com, and there'll be a little pop-up that will say to subscribe to the pod letter, and you can do that. So having said that, look, that's just a lot of stuff. And thank you, Connie. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Banachek. You guys are such good friends. And I've just loved the heck out of this last hour or so. So thank you for being part of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Scotty.
And so until next week, this is Scott Wells. And keep your powder dry and your martini dry. Your martini dry. That's right.
Buddy. Wonderful. Good night.
All right. Cheers, Scotty out.
Cheers.